Welcome back to part 2 of the Bronco interior rehab. You see the new headliner we recovered last episode. And here's some test sprays of some interior fabric dye I'm messing with. Where we left off was we had pulled out all of the carpet, identified a rust problem on the driver's side floorboard, and had begun to glue up the ceiling panels that had pulled away. This is what this sounds like now. Much different. Before it was like a cymbal, very tinny, high-pitched, and resonated through the whole cab of the truck. So that was a win. So with the jack out of the way, that will make room for me to work on this floor pan. Just like the Ranger, we ordered, I think, the exact same part number, probably the exact same manufacturer of stamped reproduction floor pan. And since we're this far into it, I really can't really justify not fixing it correctly. It's really not that difficult. We'll just lay it in place here and trace around it with the Sharpie, come back in and cut out that metal. We'll leave about a 1-inch overlap between the two panels, so the hole we cut out will be slightly smaller than the replacement panel. And we'll come back in with some panel bond and we'll glue it in place, put a couple self-tapping screws in it to hold it overnight, and then the very next day it will be 100% ready to roll. While that's drying, and in today's video we will pull out the rest of these interior panels and get them scrubbed down with some alcohol and some degreaser, wipe them all down with acetone or paint thinner to open up the pores of that plastic. We'll spray it down with some adhesion promoter, and then we'll hit it with some HVP 113 medium beige duplicolor vinyl and fabric dye. Cue the time lapse. Man, that was a long time lapse. And you'll notice that I kind of cut the panel in half, and that's because the back half did not fit very well. This panel fit my 86 Ranger perfectly, so something happened between 84 and 86 to the floor of these trucks. Maybe it's just a Bronco II thing, but mostly the front, where the front part of the seat bolts down, is quite a bit different. The front half of the panel fit pretty well, so I went ahead and rolled with it. I had to make one little relief cut here on the side, but other than that, it fit pretty well. I'm going to spray and paint some like rust converter up in here, a spot that I couldn't cut out. But aside from that, it's pretty well ready to go in. I'm going to put some panel bond on the back side of it, and I drilled all of these reference holes so that I could use some big long self tappers to hold all this in place. And then I'll likely leave those self tappers in place. I don't think I'm going to pull them out because that's just one more hole to fill, one more place for water to penetrate through. Once I smear all this with the panel bond and then run a screw through it, it's weather tight. Once I pull that screw out, now I've created a leak, and I've got to fill that leak with some separate like silicone or something, and I'm just afraid it's gonna leak and not seal well. So I just wanted to pause the time lapse and get you caught up kind of verbally. It was where I'm at, what I'm doing. I'm sure somebody had questions as to why I was drilling holes in my brand new panel, and that's just so that I could run self tappers in, not blindly. Yeah, back to a time lapse. You'll see me glue this down and screw it in place. Well, it's now day 3 on the Bronco, and you can see here that all of the adhesive is set up. The floor pan is permanent, and I've begun to tackle this rip in the floor. I just used my floor jack, and I put a 1-inch socket on the floor jack as kind of a ram, and I've bent a lot of that metal back up into place. And I need to start tack welding and then hammering all of these other irregularities flat. However, my welder is all the way over there. I don't quite have the reach for that, so I'm shifting gears. I'm going to get this headliner in here so that I can back the truck out, turn it around, and back it in here next to my welder. So I have to figure out now how to get this headliner from here to up there without getting it broken in half again. I think it's best I probably put the camera down to do that, so see you shortly. Well, before I get too crazy on the headliner, I need to get these panels, sound deadening insulation, glued back up to the top. And it's got a sticky back to it, but it's not that sticky anymore. So I think I'm going to use some of this upholstery glue that I picked up. Okay, now I'll just stick these up in place. That's going to help tremendously keep that noise down, isn't it? That's awesome. Oh yeah. All right, well, I got the headliner in the truck, but I'm unable to lift it to the ceiling. I have a feeling we're going to be on pause for a minute. And now is the perfect time for me to thank today's sponsor, Rock Auto. They, without really knowing it, are supporting my headliner video. Thank you, Rock Auto. You've unknowingly been supporting my projects for years. Well, everything seems to be easy with this Bronco so far. We got the interior panels out. That was pretty straightforward. It was about 8 fasteners on each side. Pull the seat belts and unhook the speakers, and they slide right out. You can see what's inside here now. That's just the back of the exterior panel. And now seems like the perfect time to replace this quarter panel if I'm going to. You can see starting to rust around that surround for the fuel filler. Also got some rot down here. I presume there's rot here because on the other side the bottoms are, oh, this one's gone. Okay, so the bottom's wasted here and then also here. So I had planned on putting a quarter on each side of this truck, but I'll have to get the light out. Oh yeah, you can see all kinds of junk down in there. Yeah, you can see why that's all rusted out. I'm looking for signs of water. You can see some right there. See the water's been running down the inside of that panel. Guessing it's coming in right through the seal of that glass, running down that panel. Yeah, I can pretty much see water damage all down the inside of that fender. And then the driver's side, man, it is perfect in there. So it does not look like I'm going to need a full driver's fender. I think on the driver's side I'm going to be able to get away with just this front lower, which is nice because that's like $40 compared to $280 for the whole quarter panel. So I think I'll go ahead and order a lower quarter and then probably a full quarter for this side. It seems like now would be the perfect time since we've got access to the back side of that panel, right? And I can't disagree with you on that. I think we'll just buzz this off and it'll just have to live inside the shop until it's done. Cool. Well, it's a quick update, but we're going to press on with painting our upholstery, or painting our interior panels, of course. I'll set up kind of a little assembly line here. I'll bring a hose over from the back of the house. I'll put it right outside the garage door and I'll just be running pieces in and out. We'll see you back shortly. So by just using some degreaser and some Citrosolve, I got all of these panels out here scrubbed, and they came out really nice actually. There were some tan like suds or film coming off of them. Part of me wants to say they might have been painted before. So in lieu of that, we're going to do the acetone wash and hope that this comes out well. I'll do a panel for you here so you can see what I'm talking about. That acetone is just eating like a dye or a paint or some type of top layer off this plastic. I think you've got to know when to stop because I do believe this is melting the plastic. So you can't scrub on it. You just have to kind of just gently wipe it. You'll feel the rag try to glue itself to the panel as this stuff, as that acetone evaporates, the panel becomes sticky. Look at that difference. I think this sheen is somewhat permanent. Yeah, that's evaporated, that's dry. You gotta be careful not to touch it when it's wet because I do think you'll transfer your fingerprints to it. The top layer is a little slimy. But look at the results. That's like freshly detailed interior finish right there. I don't know what's going on here. See, this piece is not melting. This piece is just getting dull. It's doing the opposite on this. This is what I expected to happen. So I'm cleaning it, I'm opening the pores. It's getting dull. I did not expect pieces to get shiny. Well, it seemed just those A panels were the only ones that got shiny. The rest got dull, just like I thought. So I don't know what's up with those A-pillar trim pieces, but not standard. It must be aftermarket replacements or something. But here's the process. Step 1's the acid wash. Step 2 is a plastic adhesion promoter. Can says 2 to 3 light coats. And I'm not even going to do that. It's just like a primer. You don't need a whole lot. You're not going to build with it. You just want to put a layer down to give the paint something to stick to. So it says 2 to 3 light coats, allow 3 minutes between each coat, and apply a top coat within 10 minutes of the last adhesion. So the clock is ticking. Let me get some paint. A little bit. That was a pretty thick coat, thicker than I wanted. I'm just going to stay back and feather this stuff on. If you put it on too thick, it chips off. You got to put it on and let it kind of off gas. It'll kind of shrink and lay down nice and satin. On top, you can put a little bit too much paint on, and the texture is a little different because it's so thick. Like I said, hopefully some of that solvent vents and that shrinks and that texture comes back. That was one of the extra pieces that I got with the truck. Here's the original that we took out. That's how close we were able to get with the paint. Not the best, but it's not the worst combination. I wish it had a little bit more orange to it. It looks more gold than anything. It's looking really gold the longer it sits there. But that's our process. And the jury's still kind of out on this. I'm going to let that set up, and then I'm going to do a little torture test to it to see how strong it really is. I've been carrying on with the acetone, washing things, and this piece that we painted is dry. I'm scratching it with my thumbnail. Seems to be pretty damn durable.